The story of Bethlehem is an exhaustless theme. In it is hidden the depth of the riches, both of the wisdom and knowledge of God. Romans 11:33. We marvel at the Savior's sacrifice in exchanging the throne of heaven for the manger, the companionship of adoring angels for the beasts of the stall. Human pride and self-sufficiency stand rebuked in His presence. Yet, this was but the beginning of His wonderful condescension. It would have been an almost infinite humiliation for the Son of God to take man's nature even when Adam stood in his innocence in Eden. But Jesus accepted humanity when the race had been weakened by 4,000 years of sin. The key word in that sentence is weakened. Like every child of Adam, He accepted the results of the working of the great law of heredity. I want to comment on that for just a few minutes. What we just read from Desire of Ages, page 49. A human being has a physical nature. And you all know that we have our physical natures are not all exactly the same, but none of us have a physical nature like Adam had when he was created. Let me explain that just briefly if you haven't thought about it. When Adam was created, he was clothed with a garment of light. He didn't need any artificial clothes. They never had to put on or take off any artificial clothes. They had a garment of light that covered them all the time, both Adam and Eve, until they sinned. But when Jesus came to our world, He did not come with a physical nature like Adam had. He was not covered with a garment of light. He had to wear artificial clothes like you and me. That's why the Apostle Paul says in Romans 8, He came in the likeness of sinful flesh. So His physical nature was weakened as a result of 4,000 years of sin. He did not have the physical nature Adam had, and He was not clothed with a garment of light like Adam had. That's point number one. Point number two, a human being now has not only a physical nature, but a mental nature. And we inherit different powers of mind. We don't all have the same mental nature either. I have known people, if they read something in a book just one time, they could remember it too, and they could quote it on a test, word for word, from then on. Now, I can't do that. Different people have different powers of mind. I have no question in my mind that Adam had a photographic memory. In fact, before the flood, they didn't have writing. Ellen White says they didn't need it. If you told somebody something one time, they knew it for the rest of their life. Didn't need writing. It wasn't that way 4,000 years later. Jesus did not come with the mental power that Adam had. He came with the mental power of people in that generation 4,000 years later. That's not all. Point number three, human beings have not only a physical nature and a mental nature, but they have a moral or spiritual nature. Christ did not have the moral or spiritual power as a human being that Adam had. He was created 4,000 years later. He accepted the results of the working of the law of heredity. It is so important to understand the truth on this point. As I was checking it in my CD-ROM with Ellen White's writings, I found out she talked about it over and over and over. Now, I can't do that now. And let me just read to you 2 or 3 statements where she talked about it. This is from the youth instructor. She wrote, "He," that is Christ, "for our sakes laid aside His royal robe, stepped down from the throne in heaven, condescended to clothe His divinity with humanity, become like one of us, except in sin." He became like us, except in sin, like one of us. He said in another article in the Youth Instructor, Signs of the Times, His spiritual nature was free from every taint of sin. That, by the way, cannot be said of any other human being that's been born, including Enoch and Elijah. Another time she said, Jesus was sinless and had no dread of the consequences of sin. With this exception, His condition was like ours. With this exception, His condition was like ours. Here's another one. Never in any way leave the slightest impression upon human minds that a taint of or inclination to corruption rested upon Christ. Now, that's not true of us. We are constantly in danger from inward corruption as well as outward temptation. By the way, if you want to read something interesting about this, what's going on in our world today, look in Signs of the Times, the article from February 3, 1890. In that article, Ellen White discusses how the inward corruption of the human race is constantly increasing. How that happens. Very interesting.